The Simpsons reveals the origins of a classic villain 33 years after his debut. The following contains spoilers for The Simpsons Season 36's To-Do Lies. Now streaming on Hulu, The Simpsons has given one notable villain character an expanded origin 33 seasons after they debuted on the show, and it's a great expansion of the character's history. Fat Tony was established in Season 3's Bart the Murderer as the most dangerous criminal in Springfield. While minor threats like Snake might be more common in the show, Fat Tony's presence atop the Springfield criminal scene gives him an edge that much of the show's cast lacks. The show has played the character for plenty of dark humor over the years, even pitting him openly against the titular family. That hasn't stopped other episodes from teaming Homer up with Fat Tony, with some episodes establishing a much closer connection to the family that even extends to Tony briefly being Maggie's godfather. The show has hinted at his backstory over the years, implying he still mourns the death of his wife and struggles with being a single father to his son, Michael. Season 36's Stu Lives delves further into Fat Tony's history, which helps flesh out his character while also setting up a potential new wildcard in Springfield. Fat Tony gets a long overdue origin story in Season 36's Stu Lies, explaining his personality and questions about the character. Stu Lies is largely about Homer and Fat Tony, who have a run-in after a Guy Fieri parody named Thad Parker. After being led to Fat Tony's home by the smell of a delicious stew he was making, Homer learns Tony's origin. The son of a former mob boss in Springfield, Tony was largely raised by his father's rival in the Prussian mob, Wilhelm von Wundholm, as part of a son exchange that ensured the peace. Steadily developing a bond with Wilhelm, Tony became something of a surrogate son to him, something that enraged Wilhelm's oldest child, Maximilian. Maximilian turning his back on his father caused him to have a fatal heart attack, but Tony remained by his side as he passed. Tony and Maximilian both eventually took their rightful places as the head of Springfield's leading criminal organizations, even going so far as to retain the peace by trading their own sons. The introduction of Maximilian is an interesting choice by The Simpsons that could benefit the show in several ways. Tony describes Maximilian as a ruthless crime boss who reshaped the Prussian mob in Springfield. The fact that it's Fat Tony saying this adds a layer of menace to the character, as Tony is usually portrayed as the most lethal antagonist in The Simpsons. The fact that he's quickly concerned about the Prussians coming after him once Wilhelm's most precious recipe is revealed to the public because of that ensures that the organization comes across as a real threat. Even though the Prussians are styled as an out-of-date skid band, they are still able to quickly surround Tony and Homer, and only spare them because of Homer's quick thinking and empathetic side. Giving Springfield a rival criminal organization that is far more willing to cross moral lines, that even Tony wouldn't adds a certain element of danger to the show. Maximilian could become the kind of threat that Tony only occasionally is, genuinely menacing the Simpsons and their neighbors, while retaining a certain amount of unique comedic personality, given his failed musical ambitions. One of the most interesting aspects of this revelation about Fat Tony is the way it explains the absence of his son, Michael. Debuting in Season 18's The Mook, The Chef, The Wife and Her Homer, Michael is portrayed as a soft-spoken boy with a flair for cooking. Although he dislikes his father's criminal life, he loves Fat Tony dearly and only wants to make him proud, pushing aside his culinary ambitions and his bond with Lisa in the name of keeping the Springfield Mafia strong, while Tony recovers from an attempted assassination. Michael has mainly only appeared in crowd shots or in the background since Season 18, but this plotline about Tony's origins tweaks Michael's role in the story in surprisingly effective ways. Tony's dislike for his son's cooking could be seen as an extension of his own history with the culinary arts and remind him of his time with Wilhelm, pushing Tony to argue against cooking. The reveal at the end of the episode that Tony and Maximilian carried on the tradition of trading sons to ensure the peace continues in Springfield could easily explain where Michael has been. Fat Tony has always been an interesting antagonist in The Simpsons, a potentially one-off character in Season 3 who gradually became a consistent presence in Springfield. He's easily deployable as a criminal figurehead for any storyline, and his self-confessed crimes make him a dangerous complication for plenty of episodes. However, there's also always been a soft side to Fat Tony that makes him just endearing enough for audiences to never fully turn on the character. Stu Lies is a great example of that delicate balancing act in action, with Tony threatening Homer and even going so far as to try and murder him, only to relent and forgive Homer when he's able to save them. His concern for Wilhelm's memory brings a tear to Fat Tony's eye, highlighting how family bonds mean a lot to the character. Fat Tony's origins fit his typically ruthless but emotional approach to crime, with a willingness to kill that's only matched by his frequent ability to forgive and forget the transgressions of other characters. It also plays into the fluid history of Springfield, where certain storylines and timelines can be retconned so long as the emotional core of the character remains consistent. This isn't even the first big Fat Tony retcon, as the original version of the character died in Season 22's Donnie Fatso and was replaced by his cousin Fit Tony, who quickly assumed Fat Tony's role in town and eventually his identity. The character remained functionally the same, with the episode's focus on Homer and Tony's surprising compatibility as friends, setting up Fit Tony's decision to spare him and stay in Springfield. The new origins for Tony and details about the character have been adjusted over the years to reflect an ever-changing landscape, and it all works. His commitment to tradition and surprising humanity despite his lethal tendencies make Tony a fascinating riff on the stereotypical Italian mobster archetype. Fat Tony's new origin is a great addition to the lore of The Simpsons and should play a role in directing the character's future appearances in the show.